So I've been watching a lot of Eric Hovind, as I said, and I don't think Eric Hovind or even his dad, sure his dad's guilty of tax evasion, pretty blatant it looks like, but compared to Jim Baker or Pat Robertson, and for me, a lifelong atheist, I'm not a recovering theist, so to me it doesn't just automatically seem dangerous. Ooh, spooky, it's like I can watch Percy Jackson, and it doesn't mean I'm going to start believing in the Greek gods. And that's kind of what the Hovinds have done, they reverse engineer scientific data, like trying to do a scientifically plausible version of a vampire story or something. They reverse engineer the legend to fit as many scientific facts as they can. I think it's entertaining. But the wholly he's exploiting presuppositionally is annoying to me, because basically he's exploiting the fact that the belief in a priori truths, that we just have to assume these basal assumptions, or time and rosemary assumptions will do just as well. And that's what that's what the classical logic and epistemology says. Right? You just have to assume it because it goes infinite regress, proven it. The skeptics don't say that. The skeptics say you assent to what appears to be the case, which means you look for evidence, appearances, evidence, which changes as you get more evidence. The appearance changes with the evidence. And that's what science is based on, really. But it's like nobody knows that, because all the scientists, they weren't all skeptics. They just used skeptical epistemology to communicate with each other, since they had different dogmas. So it's like they acquired the skeptical epistemology, and even the scientists don't know a lot of the times. They'll preach the principles. They'll say you have to follow these principles, and they happen to be skeptical principles. But then they'll say you need these rosemary and time assumptions. See, if you applied my solution, you still have a God of the gaps, like Eric wants. Right, because with mine, you get down to perceptions, and then he goes, yeah, but where did the perceptions come from? I want to know. And I'm like, well, I just want to know how they behave. Now, that tells me something that I can characterize as information about where they come from. So I'm satisfied with that. But he would say, oh, no, well, I'm not. And just like he says, well, I need God to know things for certain. It's like, I need God to know where the perceptions come from, and I argue, well, you don't know where the perceptions come from. But I don't have to say the world could be pink unicorns, and I don't have to say that the laws of logic are immaterial, and I don't have to give in to these things where if you need a metaphysical epistemology, then yeah, you need God. There's no way to prove. A priori truths and metaphysical epistemologies are abstract notions that relate one-to-one to this idea of, thoughts that God has, thoughts in God's brain. And some people will say, well, we can't know them, but they still exist, because God still exists, and so on and so forth. And you don't need that. You can go just from perceptions. Whatever perceptions are, we don't know what they are, we're looking into it. Right? And yeah, the God of the gap still exists, but again, I respect that, I think, more than a lot of you recovering theists can, because, like, for example, I'm going to say that Eric Hovind goes and pays attention to the fossil record. You're going to go, no, he doesn't. Look, he thinks the world's 4,000 years old or whatever. And dinosaurs lived with man. Right, but he goes and looks, and he reverse engineers. Oh, that's so dishonest. But, I mean, scientists are doing a similar thing, just more honestly. They have different aesthetics, different things they're trying to fit back. They don't have the Bible to start from. But he's looking at those facts, and eventually maybe those facts will speak to him. And it's kind of funny. But there's something about being a God in the gap. That's where God should go. And it's like if somebody will continue to accept an ever-growing body of evidence about how things behave, and then reinterpret the Bible to accommodate that, then that's accommodating physics. I mean, there's really no reason to say, hey, you have to stop believing in your God because he's in the gaps. It's like, no, it's not. If you keep the God in the gaps, then it's pretty much okay. I mean, I would teach my kids not to think that way if I could, or at least expose them to other ways of thinking and so on and so forth. I mean, I think there's more effective ways to think, but in terms of other people being in charge of how other people think, it's like if you keep your God in the gaps, then what's my complaint about you? So anyway.